overnight I got 50 clients just landed in my lap, and it's like, you're the client manager and you're the strategist. And we're like, okay, like it's either I just, lose my house or I take on this job. That was basically my choice. So I was like, well.
I'm Dave, and welcome to the AdOps Architect podcast, where we break down the business models, tech stacks, and systems that drive real growth in the advertising world. Today, I'm with our guest, John Moran. You might know him as one of the leading voices in the digital advertising world, former co-founder of Solutions 8, Tier 11 advisor, and evangelist of First Touch new customer offline conversions. Today, we're not just talking about ads. I brought John on because he has done what very few have. He scaled the agency to 100 plus employees and then pivoted to being a strategic partner in multiple other agencies. We're gonna dive into John's journey so you know how to efficiently scale your ad agency and your career in ad buying. John, it's really nice to have you. And yeah, thanks for being on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is a lot of fun. I love these things. So yeah, I hope you have a ton of questions because I have a lot of information to share, most of it useless, but hopefully you can steer me in the right direction.
No, it's never useless. Either really insightful or it's going to be really interesting to hear one of your crazy stories that you had.
Yeah, it's always the same. Yeah, it's definitely like a, after you've done something for like over 10,000 hours is when they say you can truly master something. And so Bruce Lee said, 10,000 kicks, and then you master a kick, and people say 10,000 hours, and then you master something. I think I've clocked in over like 13 or 14,000 hours inside of like paid media. So I've seen everything, done everything, been hired for everything, been fired for everything. So yeah, it's been a wild ride. It's been a lot of fun, but yeah, it's definitely a path that I would absolutely do again if I could. It was that I think impactful to my life.
Wow, that's awesome. I'm curious, what did the early beginnings of John Moran running ads look like?
Actually, John Moran wasn't running ads in the beginning. John Moran was actually farming it out to another company. So Cosmo and I, when we first started the Solutions 8, which actually was a different name of a company before that. But once we kind of teamed up together and started that agency and really started to invest in our education and paid media, we were white labeling everything at that time. So we were basically like, do you want SEO? We could do SEO, and then we pay the best SEO guy. And like, oh, do you want paid media? We could do paid media, and then we would just pay the best media teams in order to do that. And we would just basically arbitrage their time and upcharge it, and then I would just do the client management. And I think over time, because I was doing more of the project and client management for the business, I've always was a client advocate. And I think that's actually something that people don't really take to heart, is being what they would say as a client advocate. Like, my job is to get angry on behalf of the client, even if it's against me. And that's a hard position to take, where it's like, I have a 5,000 ROAS and, everything inside of Meta and Google, they've never looked better, but the company goal is not met. So all of my hard pill to swallow is all of my work is useless. It is that's something that is really hard to look in your face and be like, you patted yourself on the back at the expense of your company and you got paid for it. So it's that was when I think the narrative started shifting to more business building. And I think that's why I have a much unique, different perspective as to how to run and grow companies, is that no matter what I do, the thing that I only will look at is the company's metrics. Is there more new customer? Is it profitable? Is their P&L in line? Can they pay me? Because at the end of the day, ROAS doesn't pay me. The client does. And I have to make the client actual dollars for them to actually pay me. I've been fired a few times because of that. Where I'm like, you have a 500% ROAS. He goes, yeah, but we lost 10%. So we're sorry it's not working. I'm like, fair. I get it. So I think that's what's interesting is over the last decade, every single thing that us media buyers usually tell ourselves with click the rate, ROAS and clicks and, the conversion rate inside the platform and the brand versus not brand and standard shopping versus PMAX and Meta versus Google and yada, yada, yada. It's all noise. It really is. It's up to us to make sure that we are spending the appropriate amount of money for the channel, for the client. And it actually makes things easier, but it definitely is something that, you have to have that self-reflection capability, and a lot of people cannot be self-critical. And that's the part I think that most people fail at, is they let ego cloud their better judgment.
That makes a lot of sense. And that's what really attracted me to you in the beginning of my ad buying journey. You're one of the first people I started watching and trying to understand how to run these platforms. And yeah, one of the core principles that I really liked is you really looked at the actual, business impact of, what you're doing, not just what the platform tells you. So that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely it's again, you have to kind of say like, was it me that actually did this? And if you say I'm not sure, then you still have work to do.
Yeah, exactly. I'm curious. So in those early stages where you were outsourcing the ad buying work, what made you pivot to start like doing it in house and start, running the accounts yourselves?
Yeah, it was more of like pivot out of necessity for both parties. So we started to outpace the white label partners capacity. So we started sending more work, and them being good entrepreneurs, they said yes to the work. The problem is that we noticed that through no fault of their own, besides them just doing the best job that they could to try to help us, that things were slipping. And we try to be the good guys by saying like, hey, we give you like 50 clients, and we know there's only like 3 media buyers there at that point that's on the accounts. I'm like, I see like 5 and 10 kind of being like put on autopilot while you focus on the problem ones. So we went from proactive growth to reactive, fire battling essentially. And so that's where like, what if we took a little bit of work off your plate? Unfortunately, that was taken a little bit more as a, I knew you guys were going to try to copy what we're doing and build it in house anyway. So you're just fired. And so overnight, I got 50 clients just landed in my lap, and it's like, you're the client manager and you're the strategist. And we're like, okay, like it's either I just, lose my house or I take on this job. That was basically my choice. So I was like, well, I have to figure this out. And I think that's when things became like really, really, really clear to me. I think when you have 50 clients, and I'm like, I have to keep 50 clients happy. And the 50 clients are going to be most happy with when I can adjust to their needs, adjust to their business. Because when I was doing client management and media buying, it was like, oh my God, if client management and media buying, in my opinion, and I will hold this true today, and I even sometimes battle internally in my agencies, this same topic. If the media buyer is not also the person that only speaks to the client as a strategist, you got to game a telephone at the expense of your customer. If I say red and my media buyer hears blue and the client thought green, that's bad. Obviously, like that's the worst thing that could possibly happen. So what taught me is like, if you can scrub the toilets and also be the CEO, that company will run very smoothly because you can battle all areas. And so I did, scrub the toilets plus build a company at the same time. I was one man army kind of thing with my partner. He was out there building relationships and building the brand. I'm in the trenches digging everything. He used to say like, he would make the promises and I would keep them. And that was just working out really, really well. So I think that was what really, I think that actually is what was, is probably the best thing that ever could have happened to me too, is like, here's 50 clients, make it work. And we didn't lose any clients, and we started growing from there. We started hiring more people and like fairly quickly to take some of the workload off me, because 50 clients is kind of hard when you don't even have enough time in the week to talk to all 50 kind of thing. And so, a lot of email communications, phone calls, and that kind of stuff. So it was helpful to communicate with the client, but you really got down to what matters, and everything that I thought mattered to me didn't matter to the client. And especially if they're smaller companies, like they might have their kids' college fund invested in this company, and they're 2 paychecks away from losing everything. And I'm if you're going to take on that type of responsibility, you have to be the media buyer, the strategist, the company goals, know their metrics better than them, so you can help them. Otherwise, I'm just another vendor that gave everyone else a bad name because we tried this agency and they suck too, which is usually what you hear.
Yep.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah.
So what year was this again?
2016.
2016. So are you telling me your first accounts that you've ever ran were those 50 accounts that you just got on your plate out of nowhere?
Yeah. Like I was doing the client management, and I was communicating to the teams, and the team were communicating back to me what they're doing, and I would communicate that back to the client. So I learned client management and the execution extremely well. I just didn't press the button. And so there's a halfway point between myself working with the white label partner and also between that point and taking on all the clients, that I started to offer some other suggestions, because the media teams were looking at the in-platform metrics. The client's talking to me about what's going on in his business. And I'm like, oh, they think that this should go up. My media buyer's focusing on that. That has a good ROAS, but the client wants this. I'm like, oh. And that disconnect is usually what stops companies from growing or agencies from becoming successful. Is agencies want to follow their metrics. The client doesn't know their own internal metrics, so they just jump across the aisle and say, well, what does your stuff look like? I think your stuff should look better or worse. It's like, but they don't even know their numbers. They don't even know if they're losing money. They just know that a 4X ROAS sounds good because a podcast yesterday that they heard at the gym said you should get a 4X in Google. I'm like, okay, dokie. So they had no direction besides self-directed in an echo chamber. And then you got the media teams that are basically saying like, well, that is performing, so I'm going to go there. And so that was, I think, the good takeaway from that too is when you're not able to understand that sort of business needs to media buying strategy, those are two different goals to two different teams. You're two ships passing in the night. So I usually try to say, like, I'll use whatever media, whatever paid media channel, whatever ad, whatever campaign, whatever bidding strategy, whatever structure, whatever reporting tool that I need to use in order to hit your goal. But you don't need to know about those. You just need to tell me what your goal is and then measure my performance by your goal. It makes it a lot easier. This, the clients only jump across the aisle and look at your stuff when A, they don't trust you, or B, it's not going right. So if other people are like, oh, this client's such a pain in the ass, like, that's your fault. It is. It's your fault if the client's a pain in the ass.
They wouldn't be a pain in the ass if everything's going great.
If everything was going good and they're well informed and they understand the strategy and they've agreed to it, why would they be a pain in the ass? Now, yes, there is some that are just difficult to work with. I'm not saying that all of them, but you get the water cooler thing where person's over in the corner like, I just got off the phone with Bob and he's got a 600 ROAS and he's closing his company. What an idiot. It's like, that's what you hear. It's like, dude, you were in charge of that. So it just gets kind of funny when it's like, I still collect my paycheck and they're the idiots. It's like that's something I hear all the time. And then people will not take a hard look in the mirror and say, actually, you did that. You screwed up. You still get to keep your paycheck, but that doesn't mean it was right or wrong.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So, all right, you're managing 50 accounts, right? You're like learning trial by fire, like, okay, we need to follow the business metrics, make the clients happy, et cetera, et cetera. How did that transition to, all right, let's start hiring people. I'm going to still work in the business, but I need like more support. And how did that next step look like?
Yeah, we needed to hire as many people as humanly possible as quick as we could because we were still growing. I think I went from like 50 to 66 customers myself before I'm tapped out. And we had two paths, and both paths were equally viable. The path that my partner wanted to do was hire a person who has experience in staffing agencies with people who are great media teams, great media buyers. No communication. English was their second language. They would not talk to clients. If they did, it wasn't very clear, but they were fantastic media buyers, and there were like 20 of them. Versus what was another option that we were deciding on is, should we just hire like 5 kick-ass like mini John Moran kind of things? We found out that we needed both. We went to a client manager and then media teams, which is their traditional agency. It's like you have a person that's never run an ad but is really nice. They are going to be the front person for your company, so they can't answer questions, but they're happy to talk with the client. And then you have the media buying teams that are like can't talk to the client and sometimes has trouble communicating with the client managers that's making all the decisions. And then you got the client over there, but like, okay, you two, like, make sure you're talking. And didn't really happen that way a lot of times. Again, for the same reasons we already discussed. So we started to go from client managers. I was like, hey, what if we hired like freelancers? Like if I found Dave out there, because Dave is obviously, you're smart, you're savvy, you're independent, you're a self-starter. But if you didn't want to worry about building a company, doing payroll and doing taxes and that kind of stuff, we can pay them very well, give them an unlimited glass ceiling, never give them a restriction. So no non-competes. There was a non-solicit. You can't steal our own client. But if you want to go find other clients yourself, for sure. Like, go be the biggest empire you can on your own. We'll be here on the side. Just you also work with us. And we'll pay you very well for it. That worked out well. It's freelancers were like, wait, I can be a part of a great agency that I can have a really nice salary that will scale with my workload like it would if I was freelance. So like, everything was perfect. So we end up hiring like 8 what we call strategists. And those people, we ended up kind of like leaning into the strategists more and then leaning out from the media buyers anymore, because the strategist can talk with the client and execute in 6 minutes what it would normally take 3-day round trip of communication and discussion. So everything became much faster. You didn't have a client wants this. Wait till the client says that to the client manager. Wait till the client manager has enough time to schedule a call with the media or with the head of strategy. And then the head of strategy can digest and then schedule a call with the media buyer. And then the media buyer, I mean, like now you got like game of telephone that will have breakdown for sure. Like absolutely. It's not just a number or red or green or blue. It's like, I need more X, I think. And it's up to someone who has intelligence in business to say, well, do you really? What if we did that? So to keep us dynamic in responding, we needed to collapse that. We needed to collapse that that chain as few as people as we possibly can. If we can get this done under one person, things would be a lot smoother, because one person has one conversation one time and everything's done in the same hour. We just don't overwork them. Each client manager managed 10 clients. or each strategist managed 10 clients. I had 50. So I'm like, if you could do 1/5, great. And that was very lucrative to us, very lucrative to the media buyer. We took a smaller profit margin, but had a lot more staying power. We had 98% client retention out of 220 customers. Now it was after 3 months. Before 3 months, it was like 50-50. But if they got to a 3-month mark, it was like 98%. Because obviously it's like, the salesperson told me that. I thought you guys did this. I didn't know you're charging me. All the crap that happens in the first 9 days of vendor-vendee friction, if it doesn't die, then it stays for like at least 95 to 98%. It was insane. But that was because I think that we collapsed down our model to almost like self-starters that were running, like renting chair space from us, almost like a salon. Like I have the salon, I have the front door, I have the way that everyone has to do something, but you're independent in your own chair. And I think that worked out well.
Wow, that's awesome. So were these full-time employees or were they those contractors?
They were full-time employees, technically contractors, but the priority was us first. So we expect you to be available between 9 and 5. If there's a time where you're talking to one of your own clients and we have to work around a little bit, cool. You know, we're not going to be like Nazis and be like, no, cancel that meeting. It's us first. Like, work with us realistically. Like, hey, I can't, but can we do it an hour later? Sure. Like we work with it, that kind of stuff. So we respected their own independent. We actually also would promote them. So we had a person who was a fantastic media buyer. I want to say his name out loud because I'll keep his we'll call him Barry. His real name starts with a C, but let's call him Barry. So Barry came to us and said, hey, I'd love to work with you guys. You guys are really smart. You guys have really cool tactics. By the way, I want to grow my agency one day. I'm going to leave here one day and I'm going to grow my own agency. And we're like, cool. As long as you don't take our clients, great. He was with us for like 1.5 years, 2 years. Did really well for us. He grew his own agency. We said a farewell on our YouTube channel to him and wished him the best of luck kind of thing and referred some work out to him that we couldn't take and did really well. And then for the next 2 years, he would refer his clients. If he couldn't take it, he would send it to us. Yeah. So like perfect. Like it was a very good mutual relationship. So, you know, that I think is like the environment of not come and go as you please, but you're compensated for the amount of effort you put in. A lot of people were really looking for something like that. Like, hey, we'll pay you like 10 G's a month. Here's your 10 clients. And we just demand that, or we expect, we don't demand perfection, but we expect perfection in an effort. Like if you run Black Friday for 3 weeks later than you should have because you forgot to check, that's egregious. But if you miss it up after like 1 or 2 days, fine. Like we expect extremely quality work. We pay very, very well. You have the freedom. You could work from the beach every day if you wanted to. I don't care. As long as the work's done, it looks good. Like that was kind of we didn't track time. We didn't screen record. We didn't do anything. It was just, we expect the work that we give you to be done to a certain level. And I don't care how it got done. So it worked out well. That was the type of environment that I think really flourished.
That is awesome. See, if I knew about this and I also was experienced enough at the time, I would have, that sounds like, you know, best case scenario. Because you get the flexibility of like, yeah, you could do other things, you know, on your own time or, you know, as long as you're fulfilling all your like duties, but also you get the stability of like a consistent income and of like, you know, of a job. That sounds like heaven.
Yeah, it was perfect. Like and it was funny is like the cream rise to the top. So you got these self-starters who are actually like very successful. And so we didn't get the people that were arrogant and suck and expect a lot. We got the people that know how to walk the walk and talk the talk. And we're very humble because of it. I found out there's a lot of people who've been very successful in life that are very humble. And those are the type of people that you want. You ever heard of the DISC system?
Yeah.
DISC rating?
Mm-hmm.
So like a medium D, so a medium dominance, very little insecurity, very high stability, and and a medium caution. Enough to take risks, but not to be egotistical about it. But enough to demand and keep themselves assertive to the strategy. So, because they go up against owners of companies that built that company to that point, and they have to overtake that company's, you know, kind of control, which is very hard to do. It's like, no, I built this company up to $1 million a year. You're not going to screw it up, says owner. And then our team has to come back and say, yes, but you did it without paid media, and that's my job. So if you were good at that, I wouldn't be here. And that's kind of what we facilitated with. It's like you have the confidence, you know what to do, you have the track record, you have the company behind you. As long as you don't go out there and make us look like idiots. Yeah. You know, you have the freedom to do whatever you want. And so they had the back end. We ran internal trainings every Wednesday and Friday for an hour every week. We went through two different trainings. One was like a all hands on deck. We had a big spreadsheet of every client's goal. And it wasn't a client goal, ROAS, CPC, none of that. It was growth. It was customers. It was volume. It was minimum sale requirements. It was lead flow count. And any client that week that was below that goal, everyone had to stop what they're doing. I had 40 employees. Everyone stops what they're doing. We're all looking at this right now, period. So for 1 hour a week, we have 40 people solving one or two problems. So we never had a client that didn't have the entirety of the company at least look at their stuff and say, here's what I think we should do, and come to a consensus. So we do that weekly. So that was the other thing too, is I think a lot of times you get these agency owners that are fat and happy in status. I own this agency. Haha. I mean, it's in the red. I'm gonna lose my rented Ferrari and my wife is divorcing me, but I own an agency. They barely ran media, or they did 10 years ago, and they're still living on the fat and happy name that has been decayed so long that they're disconnected from their own business. So they just have to like hope and pray that the person that they hired knows what they're doing, and they don't even know if they're right. So the owner's like, you got this? Uh-huh. Well, I don't know if you do or not. I have no way to check, but I trust you. And then, it's a round and round circle. So if you pay really well for people who can self-start, that can do this on their own, they will thrive. Because they'll thrive anyway.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I'm curious, like as you scaled, you changed from the model of media buyers and account managers to just strategists. Did you just scale the strategists, or did you have other like key roles as well, like in the company?
Yeah, we almost started getting like the strategist assistants. So it's like almost like a media buyer assistant. So if you're a strategist at tier 11, you have a person that might just be, if you're like a senior strategist kind of thing, like you're doing 20 accounts now and you're managing $3 or $4 million a month in spend. You don't maybe have the time in order to go press every button. So we basically put your media buyer next to you on every call. And so you'd be like, hey, I think we should do A, B, and C. And the media buyer next to you is like, okay, we're doing either A, we're doing either B, or we're doing either C. It's like, I think we should do that. Okay, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do this. And they would take all the notes and they would go and execute. And if they have any questions, they would go back to the strategist and say, I heard you say this, I misunderstood this part. Can you clarify that for me? So they get to hop on a call, say what they believe that needs to happen, and then they can just go to the beach. And then it is done without them having to do anything. So now they can take on even more work, providing more value with less actual physical labor.
I see. Gotcha. Mm-hmm. So each strategist had almost like their intern or just their assistant to help with
like 3 of them out of 10. And then unfortunately, once we got to that point, we sold.
Oh yeah, I see.
Yeah.
So when you got to like 100 plus headcount at the very end of owning the company, was that just strategist and assistant strategist? That was it?
It was me and Qasim. We had zero C-suite. We had a head of client management. We had like kind of a CTO a little bit. So he did like all of our tech and that kind of stuff, like conversion tracking, that kind of stuff. And we had about 10 VAs that were doing like kind of the heavy lifting of all of the really time consuming stuff, like hunting down accounts receivable, or that would be executing on like a media buyer's or a strategist like plan, or editing some like videos for creative. So they were just like kind of the utility, not in a bad way, but like anything that we didn't have a specialized role for, they could take on. And so we've hired a whole bunch of technical people who are very, very hardworking, a lot of in the Philippines. And those people would take on all the stuff that's like, should we have the strategist that's trying to build 10 companies set up conversion tracking? No. So we have a person for that. So now what a media buyer or what a strategist gets to do is like sit down in their chair. They have access to the account. They have the sales team has already gotten all the goals and the plan and all that kind of stuff. So strategists, okay, they're here. They need to get to there. I think we need to do it this way. You execute, and then they're good. So it's basically you leverage their mind, and they could do a lot more rather than a person will be a lot more creative if they don't also have to do it. So it's like, I think we should try these 3 campaigns and these 2 other campaigns, and then that channel, these 2 other campaigns. And then if we could do this, but then we also do that. Anything else? Yeah, we might want to bolt that on here. Maybe later on if we need to do this. Okay, thank you. You're free to leave. And then someone else would do that. And so that was, I think, the big plan is if you're like, hey, go make up how much work that you have to get done today. Well, let's run brand and see where it goes. The strategy becomes a lot simpler when they have to press the buttons. So you have a person that's like, you think of the craziest, cool stuff you can. Someone else will execute it, but you're responsible for it. Okay, deal. And so I think that was the kind of the main 2 big groups that we had. It was just like me and Qasim running basically main strategy and main sales and promotions, and like us getting out there and doing speeches and all the other stuff, teaching. And then you have the people that are following all of what we're teaching, executing with the media team. And it was a very well-oiled machine. Now we were just running Google ads. I think that was the other thing that was big. It's like when it's just one channel, yeah, you can get a lot done with like 3 people. I mean, it's one dashboard. Like there's not a lot there. It's not really. I mean, and once you get past like the 180 columns and you understand them all, you're done. Like you've mastered Google besides experience. So you know how to get things done. It's not like I've never swapped an engine on an 86 Civic, but I have it on a 2012 Honda. Like, it's not that. It's a search campaign. They're all the same, And so what's nice is like you get to have that like quick execution because it's really standard in one channel. So I think that was the other thing is we niched down to just PPC. We used to be landing page, email, website, SEO, CRO, then Meta ads, which was just Facebook back then, no Instagram. That was like Facebook ads and Google ads and YouTube ads and that kind of stuff. We were doing everything. But once we just whittled all of the full funnel down to just PPC, that's when we really rocketed.
Dang, okay.
And became really good at one thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. So at this point, are you just managing the company or are you also running accounts as well?
So my customer acquisition specialist company, I have a couple employees there. I do all the client management and the strategy and sometimes the execution, or sometimes I'll just pass off to an employee and then have them execute the strategy. So it's the same model I use in Solutions 8.
Gotcha.
And then in tier 11, that one is the full funnel agency. So we purchased a creative agency. So we now can do creative, media buying, data was what they call the Tier 11 data suite, which is utilizing the Wicked Reports interface with edge tagged data. That's kind of like our own secret sauce. So that's something that we also provide as a service. So it's like, do you want creative, you want the media buying, and they want the data, and they can roll it up into one big package. That's Tier 11, and that's for both e-com and lead gen. And then Adesium is another agency that I'm a part of that is focused on performance marketing, but a fast, rapid scale of very large businesses in performance marketing. That's kind of my background. It's like, hey, we're making $100,000 this year. How do we make $1 million? That kind of thing. And so and it's very, very well funded through a partner of ours. And that person goes and sometimes will invest in a company and then earmark some of that investment for us to build that company. And so I can't say his name out loud, the investor, because everyone knows who he is. He's not like Shark Tank popular, but he'd be like, oh, I know that brand and that's the guy. So it's like someone that's well known in that space. But he owns a capital investing company. So he has of capital. He buys fashion brands and then grows them in tandem with us. And then that's how that agency operates. So there's only 6 of us there, but you have 20 fairly large fashion brands that are growing very rapidly. It's a lot of work because doing like all the way down to like what's the style and pose of this person for the creative. Like that's how deep we get.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. So I think a lot of like the 2 main questions that I think just people in the advertising space that are trying to start their own business might have is, one, does it make sense in the current ecosystem to niche down or to expand the services? So let's start with that one.
Mm-hmm. I would say niche down, yes, but not from a TAM perspective, not from a total addressable market. Like if you say, hey, there's 1,000 different industries that I can go in and I want to be an expert in that industry, you're putting all of your eggs into one basket that's less than 1% of all commerce in the United States. That could be huge, though. It could absolutely be huge. Or that thing can be just wiped out in the middle of the night and you wake up and now you're unemployed. So we said, well, what if we niche down to a service that every company can use? So now our total addressable market is the same size. Are you a business that's open on Wednesday? We can run Google Ads for you. That was the thing. Is like we can niche down to a service that we know every company needs and can use, but we don't want to do that for just the industry. When we did that we were going to niche down, and we started another agency called Neato Marketing, and that Neato Marketing was a Montessori only agency. And what we found out is that we had Solutions 8. We didn't shut it down, but we niched down to the Montessori education space, 16,000 schools. And then COVID hit. And if we would have niched down to the education space the year before all of the schools closed, I would not be sitting here today. So I think that was the big thing is like if you niche down to an agency, to an industry, who could have predicted COVID? No one. So when you
No
niche
one.
down to an industry, just know that, yes, something you have no idea, never expected could wipe you out overnight. That did for us. Now, we propped ourselves up by Solutions 8. So we funded Nito from our other agency that kept it going. And we literally provided the same service to every client. We just never charged any client. We had like 35 or 40 clients that we just stopped billing for. We said, you're still going to receive all of your services. You're just not going to pay a dime. That bought so much goodwill. That company grew, and then we sold that company. So I would say niche down to a service, but never in unless you are like Gandhi. Not Gandhi, that's stupid. Unless you're like the genie in a industry, do not niche down to that industry because you're now going to be a little fish in a little pond, and if there's one fish that's kind of large, you're screwed. That's the part that sucks. That is something we didn't see. Oh, let's niche down to this industry. Oh, we're going to do this. Oh, you mean like that company does? Shit. We didn't see them before. So now we just put us against an 800-pound gorilla. Uh-oh. We're going to build something called a shoe. Like Nike? Who? Oh, shit. So that was kind of the same thing there. But yes, sometimes a global pandemic can wipe out your business. You just can't see that shit coming. So niche down, but don't remove as much as you can. Don't reduce your total addressable market. That was what that taught us.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm curious. I think after you sold Solutions 8, you've pivoted a bit into both focusing on Google and Meta ads. Is that because the landscape is changing or what made you make that pivot?
Yeah, two things. One, when we started to measure more often inside of the business success metrics rather than in-platform metrics, you realize how much one channel cannot do too much to the top line. It needs all channels. So that's something that we figured out is like, if I can do a lot of prospecting on Meta, do some remarketing on YouTube, some prospecting on Meta, adjust my brand spend for as much as I know the inbound traffic is going to come in from that prospecting, you can kind of move like 6 levers at once and get everything dialed in. What we were doing with Google only is we'd move one lever and we had to beg the other 5 levers to move. And they were like, I don't think so. And so we're like, okay, I can't help this business because the Meta media buyer doesn't understand the word NCAC and I need them to do this and they won't do it. So we found out that we're arguing with other vendors and vendees. So it's like, well, what if we just dropped our price and just did it all? Okay, so you have more clients, the same amount of revenue in an easier day? Yes. Sounds good to me. Everyone else is like, no, if I'm going to take on more clients, or if I'm going to take on more services, I'm going to charge them 2 and 3 times more. It's like, yes, you will with your 6 clients until you die. Like, congratulations, you won the battle, lost the war. So we just had our pricing kind of stabilized. And we just started offering more and more services. So in Solutions 8 at the end, we're doing Meta, then we're doing Google. We were starting to do a little bit of creative, and then we sold it. But we were always Google only because we weren't a creative agency. Tier 11, we're a creative agency as well. So we could run TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, and Meta, and Google and all the other stuff, and have everything done in-house. We didn't have to beg another client's vendor or agency to give us something, their competitor agency that we could also use. So it just became like, once you remove the politics and ego, then you could you could work really, really well with the company. But a lot of times people in power have ego and they have control issues and they want to make themselves look good at the expense of the client, and that just never works. So it was by necessity that we had to move into an omni-channel presence to A, help the clients, B, stop fighting with other idiots in the space. Pardon my French, but branded ROAS doesn't mean dick for the company. It's really just, can we grow that business? So they would never understand a business metrics because they never built a business, but they understood Meta's metrics because they only worked inside of Meta. So I couldn't train a media buyer to be an entrepreneur fast enough to help the actual entrepreneur.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm curious, a little bit of a segue, but for someone out there that has a few accounts and they're trying to figure out the vision for where they want to go, when would you recommend someone to try to scale an agency with multiple employees versus just going solo and just trying to max out the amount of direct clients they could work with without any other people?
I think that's going to be a different probably question and answer for every agency. I've helped a lot of agencies. I have a lot of agencies that actually pay me for education, which is weird because I educate my competitors, but no one's that good enough to be like, haha, I won the world. They'll have 50 clients and then be tapped out and be like, oh no, what are we going to do with the other 3 million? So there's always enough business to go around. So that was kind of the reason why we did that. But I think what I would say for an agency is, and no, it's a stupid kind of open-end question, but it's why did you build the agency? Do you want to get good at building companies? Do you want to build your own company? Like, are you just looking for like lifestyle cash cow status? The answer to that question will dictate what they need to do. And I think there's more lifestyle status, and it's a hot industry, and I'm a good salesperson. I can figure this out. I have an internet connection in my grandma's basement. I could run Google Ads too. You get a lot of those people that are just kind of winging it because this is such a brand new industry. It's never been taught in college. There is no standard operating procedures. There is no gold standards, and everyone's just out there shooting from the hip. So it's like, if you, and I do find this to be true, if you're a good agency, if you're a good executor, agency ownership is just a title. So my personal brand brings in, just myself with my 2 employees, a 6-figure monthly net income. I started this with literally, I don't even have a website. Go look up a website owned by John Moran. CustomerAcquisitionSpecialist.com doesn't exist. I have a LinkedIn profile. Like, that's all I have. So, and it wasn't because I was good at marketing. I was just good at executing. So a lot of people are just like, they send me a referral. They're like, oh, you built my business up a lot. I got 6 buddies that are also struggling. So they just send me their friends and their relatives' work and their friends in the industry. So I've grown my repertoire of clients through pretty much 90% referrals. And that was because it was what I was good at. So I have no ad budget. I don't have a website. We're doing a podcast right now, and I share everything that I teach for free online and LinkedIn and that kind of stuff in YouTube. I charge 0 for it because most people can't understand it and also can't execute it and can't think like me. So it's not, I can give you the tools, and if you're good enough, you'll figure it out. But not a lot of 9-to-5ers out there would dedicate their life to that. And so that is a thing that I thought was, if you're a good agency owner, you have to be good at this industry first. And if you're good in this industry, you really shouldn't have a tough time running your agency. People have a tough time running their agencies because they're not good at this.
Yeah.
That's what I kind of
join Digital Scale so you could actually become better, right?
Right. Yeah, that one's fun. That's a good one. I love that little community. That thing's kick-ass.
Yeah, no, it's been one of the best investments I've ever made. And it's like, you don't charge like a crazy amount for the value that people get. So yeah, I'm going to probably stay there for the rest of my life.
It's cool. Like, I charge $2,500 an hour for any work that I do. And sometimes I'll say, hey, I need an hour a month and I can run your meta ads. It might take me longer than an hour a month kind of thing, but I don't nickel and dime. But I think in the school community, we charge, $200 a month, I think. And then I have 8 hours worth of information Q&A a month into that community. So it's like $2,500 an hour or $200 for 8 hours. And we do live Q&A, which is great. That's what I love. It's like, I can actually help you and fix your problem every Wednesday. If you come there and ask me a question, we can do it. So it's a way to teach the best that we can at the price that we can keep the lights on. Where it's not using it for profitability. We just also use it as, honestly, a way to globally test our strategies as well. I'll do 10 case studies and be like, is it working for everyone else? They're like, yeah, it's working. I'm like, good. This is now industry standard. Why do we do this? It's like, well, we have so much money coming in now and so much business and so much work that if we can just have more people out there know how to do this, a lot of times they will send that work to us because they know we can help them if at any point in time they can't, or another business that they knew of wasn't being helped. So everyone just became a gigantic referral network because, like, he proved it worked. I tried it. It worked. I think it can work for that customer or that client, or I can't make that strategy work. Maybe he can. And so we all just kind of like become a big community. It's really cool.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm. It's fun stuff.
Yeah. So curious, like, what is your current goal? Because you've sold several companies. You're now part of several agencies. Like, do you plan on just continuing to?
I was going to retire 3 years ago.
Really? No way.
Yeah.
No way.
I made enough money that I never have to work again in 2022. I just keep doing this. I don't know why. It's just fun. It's like a big puzzle that when you solve it, you make hundreds of thousands of dollars. The client makes hundreds of thousands of dollars, and the person that wanted to buy the shoes gets the shoes they want. So there's literally no one loses, and everyone makes a shit ton of money if you can figure out a puzzle. And if you're like, hey, not to toot my own horn, but I'm really, really good at this puzzle. So it's like, hey, if you can fix this, we'll pay you 10 grand. I'm like, oh, yeah, you just need to change these 6 things. It's like, it becomes really, really easy now. And because we've gotten so advanced and we've spent so much time, effort, and energy in this, it's very fast. So a lot of times I'm like, yeah, I'll charge you $2,500. We can 3x your company in 6 months. And, it's just becomes like the easy button. It's weird. It feels it. I'm going to be very, very, very arrogant here for a moment. If you could walk into a doctor's office and there's a person there that says, I have the common cold. I'm not talking about cancer or anything. I have the common cold. And if you can just like press a button on their forehead and cure them, when do you retire? It's like, I don't need a lot of time. I don't need to charge a lot, really, even just to help a lot of people. So I was like, I don't know, $200 for a school community. Everyone can join and we'll just all do this. It's like, it gets that much fun. I love this stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we just created a feeder strategy for Meta. Feeder strategy for Google is now found on AI. If you go to Google and type in feeder strategy, Google's AI now shows a snippet of feeder strategy. I made that last year.
Huh.
And it became that popular. And so I think like that is something that, you can see how much this permeates throughout the web. I'm just gonna share a window real quick.
Yep.
But right here is like Google feeder strategy. Google feeder strategy. Google approach uses 2 campaigns to optimize performance by dividing traffic and learning objectives. And it's like, this is Santos. He's our old person. He's our old employee at Solutions 8. You got this guy that tested, love it. The feeder strategy for Google Ad, lower CPC and scale of smart. And like, there's me on the tier 11 YouTube. It's got all these people talking about it. And then all of the stuff here, like there's Ralph Burns. And so what's cool is like I create a strategy and it just fucking goes insane. We just did feeder strategy this week for Meta now. We got Google's done and we're proving it in Meta right now. Mm-hmm. And like it's just so cool. Like I don't want to stop. It's amazing. So that's why I keep doing it.
That's sick.
It's just fun.
Yep.
So I really appreciate you having me on, man. This is a lot of fun. I hope we get to do this again soon. But yeah, we covered a lot of ground today. We talked about all the way down from like how we even started and how I got like fired a whole bunch, and all the way to like why we keep developing new strategies. And so I really appreciate your time. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah, and again, I really appreciate you finding the time to get on this podcast. This means a lot to me. You've been one of the the people I've really looked up to for a long time. So to me, this is like a dream come true. So thank you.
That's awesome, man. Really appreciate it. And everyone out there, this is a kick-ass podcast. It's gonna be the next best thing. I've known Dave for some time, and this is gonna be fun.